did we all get hoodwinked? All right, that's going to be one of the questions. But with all of that behavior, yeah, I stand by it. I stand by whatever I say. And yeah, I didn't think he should be in the ring because I didn't think it was a put on, and I still don't. I do think that he had problems, whether you want to call them mental issues, whether you want to call them confidence issues, whether you want to call it issues that we all get when we're in a fearful situation, where we're in an anxious situation, a boiler place, when we're in a pressurized situation. We can break down. We can have problems. I don't think he was in a great place. I think he's a good kid, basically, the core of him, but I think he's sometimes trying too hard to have a certain image that, I don't know, gets away from him a little bit with the social media, with everything else that he's so good at. And look, he's smart. He knows, I guess he knows what he's doing. He's made a lot of money. He's a good athlete. He's obviously a good fighter. I do think there were issues, mental issues, issues of him being lost, issues of concern. And I still think that. He's not out of the woods with that. And God bless him. God bless him. Maybe it was on purpose. Maybe that was an advantage that made all the difference in the world. Maybe some people call it cheating. Maybe some people call it whatever. At the end of the day, he got in the ring, and what he didn't cheat about is the way he performed and the way he had to deal with what he had to do in that chamber of truth. That as difficult a place as there is on the planet other than actual war. I believe that he was going through this turmoil. I believe that ever since the Tank Davis fight, that he was lost in his confidence of a fighter, of what he was, what he wanted to be, what he needed to be, of getting back into that ring. That he did have, you want to call it a meltdown, he had a struggle. Believe it or not, it's not always to fight the fight. It's to get to the fight. I think that's where the trouble was and why we saw this. He was having trouble getting the confidence, getting it together, getting the belief system together. All of that. All of what is part of being a fighter. Part of being anything in life that requires discipline, that is involved with confrontation. That can be a difficult battle to do, or go in the courtroom as a lawyer, or whatever it is, go up on the stage as a comedian. Whatever that pressure is, whatever that fight is, whatever that battle is, it involves emotion. It involves controlling your emotions. And when they get out of control, it involves turmoil. I believe he was in turmoil. I would believe that he was in turmoil to get to the arena, to get to the moment. So what did he do? So he started doing all this stuff we talked about already. I don't have to revisit it. Posting all this crazy stuff and all this turmoil and all. Now, could part of it been that if things went bad, he had an excuse that he wasn't, that all this stuff was going, how could he be the top fighter? How's it possible to be the top fighter? How could we even expect him? By getting lost in the fog of what he was doing, whether it was drinking, smoking weed, whatever, all these things, and posting all this craziness, it allowed him to get into a place. Usually you don't want to be in a fog. No, who wants to be in a fog? You can't see right. I don't think he wanted to see right. Because if he saw right, he would have saw what was coming, a fight with a top fighter. And right now, he wasn't mentally ready to see that. So he got into a fog. And he stayed with that fog. I give him credit. He never pulled the ripcord and got out before the fight, though. But he had to get to that fight. And that was his way, whether you want to call it instinctual, human nature coming to his savior, human instinct coming to his savior. Whatever you want to call it, just hear me out. It got him to the arena. Your eyes don't lie. You could see he wasn't really right. You could see it looked like he hadn't slept a few nights. You could see that there was certain things that maybe he wasn't doing right. But he was still training. He was still moving forward. He was still on that course. But what helped him stay on that track, on that course, was all of this stuff that normally would be the worst thing, would be completely to your detriment. But in this case, it was to save. It saved him. In this case, it was the vehicle that got him to Barclays Center in Brooklyn, to the ring. The biggest part of the win for him was getting to the fight. And that's the way I'm going to explain it. That's the way I believe it. That's the way. I mean, I don't have a degree in psychology, for anyone out there wondering. But let me tell you something. If you've been a trainer for 50 years in this business and you're fortunate enough to have mentored underneath, have had a mentor like Customato and have, studied for 7-8 years with a man like Customato, you don't need a degree, and you've been in the business with that many fighters going through the trials and tribulations that you go through in this business to develop fighters, and being in the ring myself as a fighter. You don't need to have a fancy certificate, credential to say that you know something about psychology when people are under pressure, when people are threatened, when people, are in desperate situations and will do desperate things in desperate situations because they feel desperate. You don't have to have one of those diplomas. You have the real diploma, the diploma of life, the diploma of experience, the diploma of being there, seeing it, witnessing it. And that's what I'm going by. So once he got there, that was the win. That was the biggest battle. Get there. These guys are fighters, so you forget they're human, that they're subject to the same weaknesses we are, the same thoughts we are. You forget that sometimes. 75% of this business, I always talk about it, is mental.